I think the ability to sort of 3D print food specifically targeted for you, right, is interesting. 3D printing vitamins in your house. You have a 3D printer with an extruder, and then like you put in your little powders, and then it can create a specified vitamin for you every morning based on results you send off. It would be great if my doctor who has my labs knows like, oh, you know what? You need magnesium and you need some stuff, right? And then being able to sort of print that and then, follow up, be able to cancel that. Okay, we've noticed you're good on the magnesium. We can stop that. Being able to sort of customize those things on your own.
Welcome to the Futurecaster Podcast, where we give you a front row seat into the future of business, life, and human potential.
Chris Albrecht, a longtime food tech journalist, analyst, and innovation insider, joins me to map out what eating, cooking, and food production could look like over the next 5 to 10 years. He takes us behind the scenes of food startups, smart kitchens, and next-generation supply chains. The future of food is becoming healthier, smarter, more connected, and more personalized than ever before. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show today. Really excited to speak with you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
How did you first get interested in the food tech space, and what did you discover along the way?
I was friends with a man named Michael Wolf who runs The Spoon, and he runs an event called the Smart Kitchen Summit. And at first, he just asked me to MC his event because I used to do that. We used to do that together when I was a reporter at GigaOM. And then he brought me on to sort of help ramp up content on the spoon.tech for a number of years. And I was there for about 4 years as the editor-in-chief, covering all kinds of food-related things from cultured meat to 3D printed food to biomes to my specialty at the end there was around robotics. So I was really looking at automating the food journey. All the pieces that go into play as the food makes its journey from the dirt to your plate. Things like the cold chain, things like, inventory management, delivery, sustainability, even things like when I was covering food there was the Cosmic Crisp apple debuted. It's an apple that was engineered in Washington State to last longer.
What's the most exciting under the radar technology in food right now that could completely change how we eat, but most people haven't heard of yet?
AI is being used throughout the meal journey in ways that people aren't thinking about. And I think that that's just going to continue to improve. There's an AI used to help when they catch fish to make sure it's a less stressful environment for the fish before, it gets killed and frozen so that the meat tastes better is sort of the working operation under that, right? There are also things like how to combine and create novel flavors that AI can use, right? By, matching things that you might not necessarily think would work together, but actually do. Or examining food, running sort of like a dry lab is what I think they were calling it, right? Like computational power to try and uncover health benefits in food that are unyet known, right? So being able to map out the properties of black pepper or something and go like, oh, there are compounds in black pepper that can be used for X, right? So I think it's not a technology people don't know about, but I think the applications of it, especially when you get into things like computer vision to be able to determine like, oh, this grape is ripe. This robot's gonna pluck it. Or, there was a company that was doing it a while back. I don't know if they're still around, but was using computer vision to sort of scan nuts as they were going and processing so that you could go, oh, this is a high quality product. And then that helped farmers it graded the product so that everybody could have like a fair price around that. So that's what I think is sort of people should be more aware of.
What do you think the biggest breakthroughs are happening today when it comes to food production, whether it's smart farming, vertical agriculture, or lab-grown proteins?
I do think robotics, especially when combined with AI in terms of production or in restaurants, you're going to see a big movement there just because it makes a lot of sense. If you think about a restaurant, right, and you think about a deep fryer, and you're like, I don't know if a 17-year-old should be standing in front of an 800-degree vat of oil, right, where you can get scalded or whatever, right? It makes sense to have a robot do that. And we're starting to see, adoption of that. Miso obviously created the FryBot. There are others that are doing it. What you want is to make things that are already happening faster, and safer. And so that's where I think you're going to see the most disruption happening in terms of the meal journey. I think one of the things that we're going to see a lot are things like water usage, right? And being able to monitor your soils in different areas so that you're not over or under watering, right? As sort of, Wi-Fi or LoRa or whatever kind of wireless communications are available on a farm, right? Like being able to get down to the ground to see the microclimate that's down there and really figure out, okay, this is the pH balance of your soil at this moment. Like being able to monitor that is really interesting. And also the idea of, I'll go back to another example, right? Which is the idea of spraying pesticides or whatever, fungicides or whatever, right? Like that's a dangerous job. You have to do it at night and you need a person to drive back and forth, basically up and down rows of these crops. And you shouldn't have a person breathing that stuff in for that long amount of time, right? So I think that that's really promising. And I do think that the addition of computer vision will help, can help sort of extract the most, you'll be able to time sort of your harvest better because you'll be able to go like, oh, okay, this is ready to go, peak freshness or whatever before you send it off. But I think there's also on the other end of the spectrum, one of the things I really like, so there's a company I covered called Burrow. And what they did is they just made like this little carrying robot and it was autonomous. And what it would basically do would be create this like conveyor belt almost, not an actual conveyor belt, but there were these little carts, little flatbed carts. And so harvesters could put what their yield onto this flatbed little burrow, and it would autonomously drive around so that, workers weren't carrying big loads too back and forth, right? Like they would just drop it on and they would just drive around. Or you could have like a robot following you with a bunch of tools. So again, we're taking sort of the manual work, the repetitive work out of it. And I think that was just such a smart idea because it really looked at solving an actual problem, which is like, people have to carry heavy amounts of crops or equipment around. Let's sort of eliminate that as best we can.
I remember you raving about the June oven. The Innova Precision Oven 2.0 is actually the closest to the June oven and it still exists. What other innovations do you think define the smart kitchen of the future?
I think that you being kind of the expert futurist you are, like I like the way you bucket things, right? So you see a lot of companies coming out with like these countertop chef robots where you chop up the food, you dice it, you put it in, right? And then it goes through an automated program to sort of mix everything together. And you're right. Like what I loved about the June oven, I'm a horrible cook. I don't like cooking because I'm always afraid of, either making somebody sick or whatever. So I wind up overcooking everything and I'm just not good at it. And the June allowed me to go like, oh, you know what? I slide a piece of salmon in and it went like, oh, this looks like a piece of salmon. You want me to cook it? And I go, yep. And then it did everything on its own. And while it was doing that, I could be over, trying to not burn vegetables or whatever, right? Like I could have two things going and I didn't have to worry about it. If I wanted to make Brussels sprouts, I could just put a bunch of Brussels sprouts on a plate, on a tray with oil and salt, and it would automatically cook them for me. That helped me, right? So it's being able to sort of slip into people's life stream, where they need it the most. And so I think that there are times when people can be creating a solution where there is no real problem, if that makes sense. And I think also like, how do you make the dishwashing faster? Like that's what I want, right? Like how do I make the dishwashing go better and faster rather than like, having another countertop device. At one point, people were developing sort of delivery boxes, right? Like drop-off boxes as more and more stuff got delivered. But the idea of having like, you have your fridge and it's like, oh, you need orange juice and, apples and whatever, right? And then your fridge sends you a note saying, hey, here's your grocery list, push the button to order all the food. And then it does. And then a delivery robot rolls up and then can just drop it off in like a cubby, like a temperature controlled cubby, and then they put the groceries away. Like, I think that that's sort of an interesting sort of chain of events. That's still it seems like it's something you could do now, but it's not anything that's really happening.
In the next 5 to 10 years, though, could you imagine that?
Yeah, for sure.
Personalized nutrition is a really hot topic, as we know. And
Mhm.
companies like Zoe and January AI are leading in that space. But how close do you think we really are to where our meals are going to be tuned to our genome, microbiome, or even our mental health in the future?
I mean, we're getting closer all the time, right? Like people are tracking all different kinds of things, your glucose levels, your, whatever. So I think that, in the ability to sort of 3D print food specifically targeted for you, right, is interesting. 3D printing vitamins in your house, right? You have a 3D printer with an extruder, and then like you put in your little powders or whatever, and then it knows how to, like, it can create a specified vitamin for you every morning based on results you send off. I know you've talked about this, right? Like, which is food is a cultural thing as much as it is like a sustenance thing, right? And so you've got to think in terms of balances because people just enjoy the act of eating. Like, I love drinking a milkshake. I wouldn't want a milkshake to come in a pill form. You know what I mean? Like, I love the experience of consuming a milkshake. But at the same time, like, it would be great if my doctor who has my labs or whatever knows, like, oh, you know what? You need magnesium and you need some stuff, right? Like, and then being able to sort of print that and then, follow up, be able to cancel that. Like, okay, we've noticed you're good on the magnesium. We can stop that. You know what I mean? Like being able to sort of customize those things on your own. Just as we get older, our needs are different, right? And so this would be a way to sort of stay in touch with the changing needs of your body and then deliver what it needs.
Peptide technology will become a streaming service in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And then right, like you're subscribing. Listen, it's not that far off. Amazon runs, has One Medical, right? So they've got doctors' offices and they've got access to your data and they've got a supply, they're a logistics company. So it's not too far off to think that, as you're downloading Fallout Season 2, another stream from Amazon is coming to your peptide machine.
Absolutely. I can see that in the future. So you like to talk a lot about college campuses because those are the places that there's a lot of innovation going on and a lot of experimentation. So it makes sense. And you talked to me once about this vision that you had, or there was a company already doing this where it was a robotic vending machine and the whole delivery service was automated. Can you share that with the audience?
Absolutely. And I want to break it down into a couple of things, right? Because what I want your audience to understand right now is because they may not have come in contact with it, which is automated robotic kiosks are going to be huge. They're going to create a whole different kind of food court that's open 24/7, right? This is not sort of the vending machines of my youth where it was, Texas-sized cinnamon buns and, a stale package of Oreos and some Freedent gum or whatever, right? Like it was, and in a coil inside a machine, right? Like these are things, one of my favorites was Yokai Express, right? Where they made frozen ramen that was developed, I believe, by a Michelin star chef, right? And they would freeze it and then ship it out. And then these automated kiosks would reconstitute the ramen. And it was delicious, right? And it was great. And it was available 24 hours a day. I used to really like covering college campuses because like it's a contained population of people that eat at all throughout the day, right? Like they're staying up late to study, right? They have a mass of, kids and adults and professionals. They're also enclosed geographic areas and they often have big walkways, which is good for things like robots, right? And so you have a population that's contained in a very specific area that you can serve. So when you think about these sort of automated kiosks or automated, and ramen is just one example. That's just frozen ramen. Like there are others that will store different ingredients and make, they'll make pizzas or they'll make, other kinds of bowl, like Mediterranean bowl foods and things like that. So if you think about just the quality of food that will be created by a machine is going to keep getting better and better, right? It's not eating at a restaurant, but you might have restaurant quality food. You might have something that is like comparable to a QSR, right? And then if you have a robot that's delivering it, then you could automate that entire chain. So if I'm in my dorm room, I could call up the robot to go get me, I could place an order with the Mediterranean bowl robot, machine. And then another robot goes and picks it up as built in, is able to, make contact with that dispenser and picks it up from a cubby and then wheels it over to me and then alerts me when it's out in front of my dorm. Like, that's great. Like, you don't have people walking around at 2 a.m., carrying food, right? Like it's safer, and it provides a service that's always on. And again, it's for what you want at 2 a.m., right? Like, you're not looking for high dining experience. You're just like, ugh, I just finished, or I'm only halfway through this thesis. I need to, I gotta keep going. And I don't want to just have, an energy bar or whatever, or something, it allows you to have fresh food that's probably pretty well balanced too, right? Like, it can have vegetables and protein and grains. And so, those kinds of things didn't exist before. What I think is more interesting almost, and probably wouldn't be on college campuses, at least not yet, is the idea of drone delivery. The idea of being able to place an order for like a burrito, and then literally, like, after it's made, it takes 3 to 5 minutes to reach you, is pretty astounding. Like, that's pretty remarkable. And it just drops down into your yard. And so, like, places like Dallas, Fort Worth, where they have a number of companies that are testing it, I believe Google and Flytrex, I think, were out there. But I think that's a space to watch. Just because I think the convenience around it'll just get better and better. And it's also just kind of a fun idea.
There are a lot of other technologies out there, like biotech, ingestible sensors, sustainable packaging, and other technology that are quietly revolutionizing the space. What are your thoughts on some of those things? I believe that ingestible sensors could be huge for personalized nutrition in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, again, like, what better way to sort of monitor, I say better, right? But as the technology improves and things get smaller and easier and, right, like, less invasive, like, there are ways that you can have continuous monitoring of things, or, checking from the inside out, like, what's going on. But the ability just to make sure that you're getting enough of the food that you need, that's really helpful. There are companies out there that are setting up in restaurants where they can monitor, like, how are you cutting a strawberry? So are you cutting too much, so that, what is measuring the food waste as it goes out to see how much food waste have we created this month, right? And that's, again, using sort of AI and computer vision to look and see at how, what's going on, and then using algorithms to make sure that, you don't create, it's Tuesday night, we're not going to create as many, scalloped potatoes because we know we don't sell as many, right? So being able to sort of tie that in with your meal planning, or the stores being able to use AI to monitor and know when to buy things to make sure that, things don't go as bad as quickly, right? Just being able to look at historical sales data and tie that in with things like bread, so that you don't have a bunch of bread that goes stale. So that if you're a store, you're buying the right amount and you're moving it at the right place, right, at the right time. So you could also do things like with electronic price tags. I guess something's going bad, lower the price on it, right? So it moves and you're not wasting it, right? So there's lots of opportunity in there. And it's not even like you need a big hardware investment for something like that, right? Like, those are software systems that you can implement to help make sure that you are managing your inventory as best as possible.
So now we're going to shift from fully autonomous to the augmented chef for a second. So today, Alchemist Restaurant in Copenhagen offers exclusive 50-course, 4 to 6 hour multisensory eating journeys through immersive spaces in multiple rooms. So do you think that AI and robotics could help augment some of the world's top chefs to unlock these entirely new forms of culinary creativity and expression in the future?
If you read about, you read Unreasonable Hospitality, right, and what 11 Madison Park did in terms of knowing the guests before they arrive, right? Like, if you have an AI that's sort of able to plug into, hey, this is who's coming tonight, these are their dietary restrictions, or these are what they like, or this is their birthday, or whatever, right? You sort of you butt up against sort of privacy concerns, but the ability to sort of use AI to learn more about your guests and tailor make experiences to them, I think is sort of interesting. In addition to sort of creating new types of flavor experiences that are, unknown at this point. So I think the bigger thing, to your point though, that gets more at the heart of what you're saying is, how are restaurants going to need to adapt to be able to be the place where people go, right? And provide that experience so that people want to go and spend the money for a night out, right? And so how do you combine the technologies that are available to enhance that experience and make it something that people will go out and do?
I do think that entertainment is going to become much bigger in the future. And so the greatest chefs can hand cook, some of the greatest meals. But I think the technology around that experience, the immersive experience around that meal, could really take that food to a whole other level. I also think with smart homes and autonomous homes in the future, that we're going to be able to access the world's greatest chefs through, I can imagine, through immersive or VR or even holographic experiences where we take cooking classes in our home. So the local hub delivers the ingredients for the cooking class, and then you're taking it virtually with some of the world's greatest chefs. I can also imagine that you share a meal with someone in Paris and someone in London and someone in Japan, maybe at the same time, and local food hubs again, or ghost kitchens, can deliver that meal to everyone. So you're sharing it at the same time. If you want to visit the most popular restaurant in Paris, you can do so again from the comfort of your home through VR or other immersive holographic experiences. And again, through those local smart kitchens or ghost kitchens, you can have that meal delivered and then turn on your experience in the future. And that's where robotics is going to come in the future, because you're going to need automated systems and robotics in those smart kitchens and ghost kitchens to create those meals or put together the right ingredients and then get it delivered, whether it's through drone or human in the future.
I remember a company I used to cover called Mukunda Foods. They're in India, and they made highly specific robots that would make like biryani, right? The Indian dish. And that's all it did. Or it would make, I think they made dosas. I can't remember, but they made like highly specific robotic appliances that automated certain just like specific dishes. And so like, I think that that's sort of interesting to think about as well. Like if that's something that you could then, replicate and then you can fine tune, much like you have celebrity branded, meal kits or whatever now. If you have a celebrity branded robot, right, which necessarily need to be like a consumer product, but something for ghost kitchens, right? Like Gordon Ramsay or whomever have fine tuned this machine to make my steak exactly the way I want to make it. All you have to do is, buy my cuts of meat, put it in the machine, and then it will automatically cook it the proper way, right? Like there's definitely something that could happen around that.
In 2025, this is a bit crazy, but we saw the first ever AI avatar dating cafe in New York. So people would go into this AI avatar dating cafe. It was called Ava. And they would have dinner with their phone across from them alone. So these were people eating alone with their phones and their AI avatar that they had fallen in love with. That to me it's 2026 now. I can only imagine where that's going. Food is very personal, functional, social. It's emotional and it's very cultural. There's a lot of tradition around it. There's a lot of human connection around it. Do we worry now with this younger generation who's falling in love with their AI companions, or they're addicted to technology, that as food becomes more tech driven, do we risk losing something essential in the future?
I don't know what the deeper repercussions are around that, but that's really interesting to think about in terms of as those things get better. And by those things, I mean like chatbots, as they get better at responding and become more human-like or whatever, like what is that like to go in and, sit and just have a restaurant filled with people in their phones? To me, that's interesting to think about.
Well, we have a loneliness epidemic and people are isolating. So just getting them out might be a win.
Yeah, I agree. And who knows who you'll meet when you're out.
Going to be really interesting to watch that. But in terms of food, we know that food is so much part of cultural traditions, family tradition, human connection, family time. I don't see that going away. I see families still embracing those moments that they can share together and have together over food and what that means.
We're just coming out of the holidays, right? And that's a time when you get together and you have people over, you have family over for dinner, and maybe you had a great time or maybe you don't, but it's part of sort of the human experience. And food is a central part of that, right? Like people sit around the dinner table and you go to a party and you eat hors d'oeuvres in someone's kitchen, right? Like it's just like, as you're with what, like it is such a central part of it. Again, I think about when we think about technology and it's interacting, I think it's a knee-jerk reaction for people to assume that people in technology just want to erase the humanness of it. And I don't think that that's the case.
You've covered dozens of startups over the years throughout your career. Which stealth startups do you think are operating right now that people don't even know about that are going to, come in and surprise us over the next 5 years?
I'm going to take it more from like some broader categories that people probably aren't aware of, right? Like, so there was a company and their name escapes me right now. They were developing wheat that inactivated or deactivated the allergen that tripped up people who were gluten intolerant, right? So it was still like flour. It wasn't gluten-free flour. There was nothing gluten-free about it. The glutens were still there. They had just gone in and shut off whatever was triggering that allergic response. And so I think that's a really interesting technology to think about as people have different intolerances, right? Like, can you go in and instead of just erasing a category of, instead of going in with like a blunt instrument and saying, hey, here are gluten-free cookies, right? And maybe you don't like them as much, right? Right. But if you could have the same ingredients, it's just not impacting you the same way because they were able to go in and shut down whatever it was triggering the event. I think that's interesting. Can that be applied to other allergens for people with, nut allergies or whatever, right? Like how could that be applied so that, people can enjoy more and different kinds of food? They aren't limited in what they can enjoy. There was a lot of play happening in terms of like sweeteners and being able to use less sugar by doing things like re-scaffolding sort of how the sugar crystal formed. And so that it had more surface area and you needed to use less of it rather than, you could use like a third of a cup of sugar rather than 2/3. I think those kinds of things, that's like deep sort of food tech. That's really sort of interesting for people. And mycoprotein was a huge thing for a while, right? Which was, the using fungi and being able to use that as sort of a base protein, similar to, kind of like soy and tofu and things like that, right? And what can you do with that? Those kinds of things are also really interesting because we're going to, people keep consuming protein. We're going to need to develop different sources for it in ways that are ecologically friendly. Something like mycoprotein is something that can be easier to grow than a cow.
What does the grocery store of 2035 look like to you?
There was a company that was working, it was called Super Duper. Was it Super Duper? And I don't know if they're still around, but it was the idea of, you put all your food in, instead of self-checkout, you just put all your food into the basket and then you basically went on this weight thing. And then it figured out and computer vision and everything. And it just sort of figured out everything you bought all in one go. And then you could walk out, right? Like it's like a next level self checkout. So I think that you'll see a lot more of that. I imagine you'll be shown, whether it's through your phone or through some other device or on your cart or whatever, like deals personalized for you, right? Like, hey, we want you to know we've got a deal on this happening right now, Chris. Thought you might like it. Or, they provide sort of recipes on the cart for you so that you can go like, oh, okay, I need to go get this and I need to get this and this. And it sort of guides you through that. But I think creating a more personalized experience based on my previous purchases and the things that I have, repeat purchased or bought or have as some other ways indicated that I like, right, I think will be more front and center to me as I enter the store rather than me sort of wandering the aisles. Things will be presented to me more upfront.
Imagine in the future, you go to a grocery-tainment space and it's the mix of a food court, a farmer's market, and you can a la carte, pick up items. So it becomes like this more holistic experience, like an Apple store, right? And you can go in and take classes as well. And you can learn how to cook there as well. So it's just this all-encompassing experience. So people want to leave their homes and not get delivery anymore, but they want to go to their hyper local experience and support local farmers and experience food end to end.
I like wandering the aisles and discovering new things. Maybe it's on my glasses when I walk into the store, right? Like my augmented reality glasses. It just comes on the lens and is like, hey, welcome. These are some things that we got going on right now. We thought you might like. Let me know if you want directions to this in the store, and I'll guide you there. And it's a little GPS that walks you to a particular section in the store, so where you can buy it. And like, oh, if you like that, you might also like this, right? Like those are all things that are easily foreseeable.
Something I've been thinking about for the year 2035 that people aren't maybe even prepared for right now is just the amount of mouths that we need to feed in the future. And we're going to have a lot of food scarcity. So we're going to need to come up with alternative ways and alternative proteins and other things to feed our population. I don't think people are prepared for this.
Now you're making me feel really superficial for saying people should wear smart glasses. I do agree with you when we were talking about food waste earlier, right? Like that's a really good application of AI because it can help reduce food waste. And it can also make sure that the right kind of ripe food gets to the right place so that it doesn't spoil en route, right? Like you can map out where food is going. So there are things like, sensors that can make sure that food is maintained at the right temperature all the way through its journey, right? So that nothing gets spoiled, or it can be called into, you can understand if there's a problem before it becomes something bad, or new ways to transport things. I was reading there was a company a few years ago that was using containers filled with ozone to help reduce grain waste as it was transported, right? So there are technologies that are available that can help make sure that food is distributed well and properly so that there is less waste and so that it can go to the people who need it. Couple that with the fact, right, like that it has to be like food, right? Like it needs to be, you need to not have the same kinds of food deserts that exist right now. And if we can maximize sort of, again, coming back to things like logistics and supply chains and delivery routes and things like that, right? Like if you can make those things happen so that you don't need necessarily a store, but you could make sure that vegetables and, high quality foods get delivered to people so that it's not just any food, but it's good food that everybody has access to. I hope that technology can find its way into the right places to really move food to where it needs to go, to create the breakthroughs that allow us to feed more people, and do so in a way that provides a livelihood for people all throughout that process.
This has been wonderful spending this time with you. I love when we get together and brain jam. Thank you so much for your time today, Chris.
Oh, I had a blast. Thank you so much, Kimberly. I really appreciate it.
If you're enjoying the show and appreciate what we do, the simplest way you can support us is by hitting the subscribe button and sharing this episode with others. And by doing this, our commitment to you is we'll do our very best to make each and every episode better than the last. See you in the future.